All right. Welcome, Roster Wars, to the United Nations Rookie Summit, Episode 3. I'm your host, Corbin. We're here with Ross and also Sam joining as our co-host today. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, man. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
And we are down Tyler for some reason. Turns out we waited around for him for a little while, but his explanation was that he was trying to change a light bulb and somehow he lost all power in his house. So we gave him a good 40, 50 minutes and decided to proceed without him because he's out without power for the day. I don't know how the hell that happens, but like we were saying, it would only happen to Tyler.
Yeah. Only
How
Tyler.
many Tylers does it take to change a light bulb?
And not lose power.
Well, his exact wording was, "Sorry, I'm not ready. Wife wanted a light changed. Thought I could do it faster, but ran into issues, so now I sit with no power." So I was really hoping that we could wait around for him to come on and give us an explanation on how the hell that happened, but I guess that'll be a tale for another time. We'll get it in the comment section. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about maybe a little less exciting group as quarterbacks and wide receivers. We are going to hop in to the linebackers, the off-ball linebackers. I know you could say like a Will Anderson would qualify as a linebacker, but we're thinking of that typical Mike kind of mold for this week. So the five that we're going to be talking about, I think it's five, right? Yeah, we've got the five. We have Trenton Simpson from Clemson, Drew Sanders from Arkansas, Jack Campbell from Iowa, Noah Sewell from Oregon, and Deion Henley from Washington State. And just looking at this class as a whole, definitely not quite as talented of a group as we've seen in the past few years. Normally you get a couple of guys who are up in, the top 20 of the NFL draft rankings, like thinking that they would go for sure in the first round, but you really don't see that with a lot of guys this year. I think there's some guys who are intriguing who might slip into the first, but you're looking at a lot of second, third round guys that we'll be talking about this week. So what did you guys think about this class looking into them?
Yeah, I looked through several different mock drafts, and there's not many times that you see a linebacker going in the first. Usually it's the second and third rounds. And I kind of feel like that's warranted for this class. A lot of guys that are good with blitz capability, but I don't really see but maybe one or two guys that like fit that mold of middle linebacker, which is what I look for in fantasy. So
Yep, I agree. What about you, Ross? What do you think?
Yeah, it seems to be like a new era of sort of versatile linebackers who the calling card is they can do it all, they can fill multiple positions, but in the NFL that tends to mean they don't fill one position at all. So yeah, we'll see how it turns out. There's a few I like, but the top guys there, yeah, they don't seem to be going in the first round. So yeah, we'll see.
Sam, what are you slugging over there? Is that a mimosa or just a straight OJ?
it's mimosa, man. I got to recover from St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, we were texting back and forth, and I definitely it was pretty miserable for me on Saturday because we got like a crazy storm. It was like 20 degrees, 21-mile-an-hour winds, and it was absolutely miserable. Everything outdoors. I'd never been to this thing called Irish on Ionia before, but happens every year downtown Grand Rapids. And I was told there was going to be like warm beer tents. No, we were out on the street. We were out there for like an hour, paid like $30 for tickets to go to this thing, and they had a line to go and get drink tickets. That was like an hour. And then you had to go and get in another line to go and get the beer. It was fucking terrible.
Yeah, that's not fun. We have my downtown area is small. I live in a small city, so it's probably like 2 miles like downtown altogether. And they call it the Green Mile, where we have like three different breweries and like a wine place and a couple other things. And they set up some stuff. I showed you the picture, some live bands and out there and just walking around drinking. It's nice.
Ross, do you guys celebrate St. Patty's much?
Oh, it seems to be like a US thing, a US and an Ireland thing. Like we don't really do it. It's just maybe an excuse to go out, but it's just like
Exactly.
I don't know, an inflated sort of weekend. It's not as big a celebration as you guys seem to have. But yeah, any excuse to go out and have a drink, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I even started out this morning, went out to brunch, had two Bloody Marys, had like sidecars with the Bloodies, got a beer, and then I was just cracking a beer before we started to record. So I'm already got a little buzz going on, and it's only like 2 p.m. here for me. So I'm doing good today. But Yeah, I agree with you guys about the linebacker class. Like you said, a couple of guys who are somewhat intriguing, but not anything that's really, that I'm really looking to get fantasy wise. And for me, coming into Roster Wars, that was my first time dipping into IDP. And I knew the defensive players just from like looking into the draft, but it's kind of weird because certain positions obviously are favored much more for fantasy. Like corners and defensive backs, not so much, but linebackers, those, if you get like an elite linebacker, that's what everybody's looking for. You'll go out and trade a first, maybe 2 firsts for some guys. And that's something that I've definitely started to come to grips with. Like, I got to get my hands on one of these top end linebackers. And looking into this class, it's kind of tough to see somebody rising up the ranks, but you never know. After a couple of years of grooming, maybe they can get there. So let's hop into the first guy that we're going to discuss here. That's Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. He's 22 years old. He's a junior coming out. He is 6'2", 235 pounds. That RAS score that I've been referencing the past few episodes was at a 9.83. So that is very elite. And pretty much every single category, he posted dominant scores other than his height and weight, 6'2", 235, a little bit of an undersized linebacker. But last year he had 73 total tackles, 41 solo, 32 assisted, 3 pass breakups, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 0 picks. Pretty similar line in 2021, 65 total tackles, a couple pass breakups, and 6 sacks last year. So that's a pretty high mark. But what do you guys think about Trenton Simpson?
Yeah, I think he's versatile. He's extremely versatile. And I think the thing I wrote down first was he's a playmaker. So he sort of runs around the field, sometimes like a headless chicken. But he's quite disruptive. So he's disruptive as an off-ball linebacker. He sort of lines up as a pass rusher, and can get to the quarterback, just through like sheer athleticism. And I seen him sort of lining up in the slot, covering like tight ends, covering wide receivers one on one as well. And he's quite a fluid mover, and he has the ability to do that. So I, I'm not sure how much that translates to fantasy. I'm not sure how much that translates to the next level, because you see these guys coming into the league. And the first thing I thought of was Isaiah Simmons. Maybe it's just scouting the helmet. But he come in, and the team that drafts him needs to have a plan for him. They need to say, this is how we're going to play you. This is how we're going to develop you. Um, and I think that's how he's going to be set up for success. But I have some sort of hesitations at that, and that's maybe because I'm not a scout, and I like to see sort of the production and the sort of I like to see it at college before I see it NFL, and I can't really project. But I think he's a strong athlete, who can do a lot.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Sam?
I mean, I agree. Like, I don't want to beat a dead horse that I feel 4 out of the 5 guys we have here we're going to talk about are the off-ball linebacker kind of guys. And just for fantasy, I don't know how much that translates. I mean, we've seen it before. These hybrid guys come in and dominate and be able to get good tackle numbers and everything. But it's the way I do it, I tend to do a little more risk adverse with some positions. And like for linebacker, that's what I look for. I look for high tackle numbers. And I'm not sure if some of these guys are going to do that. But I feel the same about Trent Simpson. Like he kind of looks like a safety. He's able to go back and forth. I think he can lock down some tight ends. He could be using some blitz packages. I think a lot of these teams are going to be looking for that next Micah Parsons, and you're going to get a lot of these guys that they're going to try to fit in that mold. But I mean, Micah Parsons is Micah. He's a different animal, and you kind of saw it this year when he was moved to play different positions. He didn't have as much fantasy success as he did his rookie year. So I like him, but I have hesitation as well. And the other thing I didn't when I was looking at him, when I was reading about him and kind of scouting the different things, looking at some of the tape, because I admit, like, I wasn't really looking into linebackers until you texted back and forth. So I've only had like a week of looking at him, but I saw him hesitate a lot with his like awareness. Like, there was no interceptions and very few pass breakups, but he seemed like a willing tackler. And so yeah, I got some reservations with him, but it's going to depend on a landing spot with a lot of these guys. I think you put him in like a scheme with the New York teams or Pittsburgh, and he can do some damage. So
Yeah. Yeah. I like how you guys mentioned Micah Parsons and Isaiah Simmons. I mean, obviously, you're not saying that he's like a Micah Parsons, but there's a guy here who I kind of compare to Micah Parsons in some ways, just being able to be like a stack linebacker and also rush the passer. And then Isaiah Simmons, I have another guy who kind of fits that mold, in my opinion, but we'll get to them a little bit later. But yeah, like you guys said, he's a tremendous athlete. And Ross, you mentioned he has great range. He goes sideline to sideline a lot, but what I really look for in my linebackers in terms of fantasy is being able to make those solo tackles. And he just wasn't that guy. He had a lot of assisted tackles. You know, I think he'd be a solid guy for an NFL team, but I don't know if that's going to translate well to fantasy. The one thing that I noticed about him was at the combine when he had his interview with Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell apparently really liked him because of his military background with his family, and he prides himself on his discipline that he gets from his dad. So I think that's something to keep an eye on, just, being a strong leader, having that discipline, being able to put in the work. I think that's something that you can look for some improvement. But when I watch the tape, and granted, I'm not, doing a deep dive looking at every single play of these guys, mostly I'll rely on highlights, highlight tapes, and then trusting some scouts that I've come to kind of depend on through the industry just to do the scouting for me a little bit more in depth. And I've seen like a lot of arm tackles. That seems to be an issue with him. Like I said before, just a lot of assisted tackles, missing tackles. He's kind of over aggressive and can overrun on some plays. And it kind of helps running backs just cut back and be able to break free for a couple extra yards. So, yeah, he's got some things to clean up. I definitely think that he does have some potential, but he is a little bit of that tweener mold, like an Isaiah Simmons in some ways. He might struggle in the boxes, which is, somebody that you want to take on running backs in between the tackles. He just doesn't really seem like that guy. So some things to like about him, but then there's other things that makes you a little hesitant. So
I'm
let's
glad you
move
mentioned
on.
his tackling because, sorry, just before we move on,
Yeah.
he just throws himself at players at times,
Yeah.
like with no like technique, and it's just like he's just trying to, like, I don't know, headbutt them or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like you said, over aggressive, doesn't have the quite wrapping up tackling technique that you'd want from like a Mike linebacker.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's a missile, man. He's a heat-seeking missile. He
Yeah.
just goes. And yeah, at the next level, man, a running back makes a juke. He's missing it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I saw a lot of that. And a lot of the things is when I look up like scouting tapes, I'll look at more of the negative things than some of the highlights because you'll see some big hits for sure. And him just like with crazy closing speed, taking it back down in the backfield. But then there's other times where you just see him just completely whiff on a tackle or just get knocked, like try and go for an arm tackle and just kind of get knocked down. So I don't know. It's pretty concerning. And in the NFL, it's just not going to work. So, but yeah, I'll be looking for a little bit of a bigger linebacker, most likely. There is one guy who's a similar size we'll talk about now, but it's Drew Sanders out of Arkansas. He's 21 years old, junior coming out. Played last year at Alabama. This was his first year with Arkansas. Didn't have a lot of playing time with Alabama, so he moved on to get some more starting experience, and he took full advantage of that. But he's 6'4", 235 pounds. He did not really test at the combine other than like height and weight. So we're still waiting on some numbers to come out to see exactly what kind of an athletic profile he has. But last year with Arkansas, he had 103 total tackles, 40 solo and 63 assisted, five pass breakups, 9.5 sacks. So big sack number there, 3 forced fumbles and an interception. Alabama, not really much of note at all. 24 total tackles, a couple pass breakups, and a sack. But this was his first year as an off-ball linebacker. He has that versatility to play as a pass rusher and an inside linebacker. So he's pretty interesting for me, and definitely one of the top guys in the class. What do you guys think?
I had him as my top guy. I really like him. He's like you said, he's 1 year at position at Arkansas. He was recruited as he was a 5-star recruit, and he played like quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end in high school. And he was recruited as like a defensive end these first couple of years at Alabama. Didn't get much playing time, but then he's been like a full-time linebacker. So he's effectively had 1 year at the position, and he had a great year. And like you showed, I don't know if you said his tackle numbers were really high, but he's just he's sort of he is versatile, but I think he played more of the sort of linebacker role, and I thought he showed more of the sort of instincts to sort of find where the ball was and sort of I think they call it scraping. So when you're running down this like laterally, through
Mhm.
sorting through the trash, you're sorting through the traffic to find the ball carrier. I sort of make a lot of highlight plays doing that, and I really like his upside. And again, that's another guy for fantasy, maybe not the most efficient, so you're maybe not going to take him high for fantasy, but in terms of um the NFL draft and sort of the player he's going to be at the next level, he's my top linebacker.
Mhm.
Yeah, man, I think you guys nailed it. Yeah, I think he's a weapon. I'm not sure how it's going to translate to fantasy, but that versatility he has, like you guys said, he's able to. He was a magnificent blitzer. So what he's able to do, he is more of that Micah Parsons kind of role. I think out of anybody of these five, but there are some concerns. I mean, that transition from an edge rusher to a linebacker, he's still growing in that position. So maybe it continues to get better. But he had a lot of missed tackles. So his last year here, he had 22 missed tackles, and the last guy we talked about, Simpson, had 21 over the course of his 3-year collegiate career. So that was a little bit of concern, but I think once again, one of those guys, you put him in the right situation. Like I would really like him in Pittsburgh. I think they could use the hell out of him as a blitz kind of outside linebacker, and I think he could surprise and actually be a good fantasy asset.
You just want Pittsburgh to get all those linebackers, huh?
I just like their scheme. I like their scheme, and I think that with the release of Miles Jack, so maybe I'm reading a little into it, but I think that he could be used right there, right off the bat. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'd be a solid landing spot for him. But yeah, like you said, Pittsburgh will turn anybody into
yeah,
a tank linebacker. So yeah, I mean, I like Drew Sanders. I agree with you. He's definitely my top linebacker in this class. Just the one single year as an off-ball linebacker. I mean, you see that the ceiling's there. Obviously, he's a good athlete, but there are some questions about, like he didn't have any like combine numbers or anything like that. So he might not be the most athletic just with that defensive end background, but he led Arkansas in tackles, pressures, and sacks. So like you said, Sam, he obviously has that kind of Micah Parsons vibe to him. Maybe, not going to have like 16 sacks his rookie year or anything like that, but you can use him in a lot of different packages on defense. And so he's going to be starting and getting some playing time right off the bat his rookie year. So there's a lot to like about him. I think that everything is just going to get better for him. He showed pretty good instincts and anticipation in the box, but like you said, there are some concerns with the missed tackles. He's not the best in pursuit. And obviously, the athleticism, we really don't know what he's capable of. So I think he's going to struggle in coverage. But in terms of fantasy, I really like him to get a lot of tackles. I like him to kind of rough up some of the running backs in between the box. And, the sky's the limit with him just having 1 year of real tape that we can actually analyze and kind of assess him on. So, yeah, I think I agree with both of you guys. He's a solid guy coming out, and I just want to see where he lands because with a lot of these guys, landing spot is going to dictate so much on what they're used for. You don't really know what you're getting until you actually see them playing because you could find a 5th-round linebacker who turns out to be great, like a Malcolm Rodriguez or something like that. And then you look at like Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean, who really weren't utilized too much this rookie year. So you really don't know what you're getting with linebackers, and it's kind of tough to find out who's going to be the flash in the pan and who's actually going to have lasting value. And I think he's a pretty safe bet if he goes in the 1st or 2nd round.
so you guys are both sold on Drew Sanders being your number one linebacker in this class.
Yeah, I would say so. He's probably my favorite at this point, but I do reserve the right to change that just based on landing spot because, yeah, it really just depends on who's on the depth chart. A lot of the times, these linebackers, and I don't see Drew Sanders being used as much in special teams, but a lot of the guys will just be used on special teams for the first year until, somebody leaves in free agency or there's an injury. You got to kind of earn your way. It's not an easy position necessarily to just jump in and take over the reins right away, especially if you don't have that surefire first round pedigree.
Yeah, I think from draft capital, that draft pedigree really matters for me. Like if you take a linebacker in the 1st round, most of the time he's going to get on the field and he's going to get in the field early and he's going to be given more opportunities than a guy who's maybe a 3rd, 4th rounder. So I'm anxious to see where some of these guys, not only their landing spots, but also how far up the draft they get. And if we've heard talk of some of these guys sneaking into the back end of the 1st, just because there's not that many like talented 1st round players compared to previous years. So we'll wait and see. But for me, he's my linebacker 1. But there's in terms of the NFL draft, but in terms of fantasy, I've got him a few players above him, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think this NFL draft's gonna be interesting because you got a lot of positions here that have some high value. I think the defensive backs, tight ends, like there's a couple different categories that, unfortunately, I think these linebackers, it's gonna be lucky to get one of them in the first round.
Yep.
Yeah, positional
Yeah.
value is not great in most years, but when it's maybe not as talented as last year, for example, then yeah, it might get pushed down. Yeah.
Yep. You got some good offensive linemen. There's quarterbacks. There's going to be at least 4 taken in the first
least.
round. So
I say
that'll
first
knock
10.
it down. Yeah. Not a very strong receiver class, linebacker class this year. We've got some good, intriguing edge players. You know, some guys who are more like, I guess you'd call them linebackers, like the Will Anderson types, or the who else is there? I don't know. There's some
Tyree
other guy that
Wilson.
I was thinking. Yeah, there's like some like second round guy. Well, I'd say he's more like the defensive end, but like that Felix Anaduke,
Right.
Kansas State guy,
Uzomah.
whatever. Uzoma, yeah. Like a little bit's like a 250, 260-pound guy who's mostly going to be used as like a pass rusher. There's a lot of good options there, but not like off ball. So, but let's hop into this next guy, because another really productive guy from this last season was Jack Campbell out of Iowa. He's 22 years old, a senior. I think he's going to be 23 by the time the season starts, but he's 6'4", 249 pounds, big boy. He had a 9.98 RAS score, which is, you know, like I said, 10 out of 10 is the highest that you can go. So he's 0.02 points off. He's an athletic freak. He ran a 4.65 40 at that size. It's crazy. All other categories he was a lead in. So he's got the explosion. He's got the size. He's got the speed. He's got the agility. He's really got everything, and he's got the productivity to back it up too. Last year, he had 125 total tackles, 59 solo, 66 assisted, a pass breakup, a sack, a forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. And then last year, he had 140 total tackles, 57 solo, 83 assisted, 5 pass breakups, a sack, a forced fumble, 2 interceptions again, and also 1 for a touchdown. So if you're looking at a guy who you want to see some productivity out of, I mean, this is the guy. Drew Sanders can move over. He had a nice season last year, but Jack Campbell has had great numbers the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, he's my number one. But like I said, I think it's just a difference in how people dynasty, and I mean, I love IDP. Though one of the big things I love about IDP is the flexibility, and especially with roster wars, with the roster construction and the scoring, it allows you to build your team kind of differently, how you see things. And I'm probably giving too much information. I'll probably get a trade offer from Goon Squad here after we get done with this, because he'll listen and read it. But like, for what I do, I mean, obviously IDP matters. Everybody probably, I'm sure everybody looked at Chris's the terrible trimmer stuff, and he even showcased it, saying 3 of the 4 champions were the number 1 IDP scoring defenses in their respective league, and Pigskins was number 3. But I feel like you can find IDP on the waiver wires. Like I did it. I got Zaire Franklin. I got Grover Stewart. Like very easily, if you're paying attention and you're active and doing that with trades and everything, you can find it. But every once in a while, there's a guy that you want, and I want him.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want Jack Campbell. In my opinion, he is the true comp to a middle linebacker. He's going to rack up the tackles. He's got the high floor, low ceiling kind of guy, which is what I want from my linebackers. He's like a consistent 15 point per game kind of guy. Hopefully, I mean, that's what I'm looking at. But yeah, he's got the size. He's got the productivity. Hopefully, he gets the pedigree in the draft. Excellent coverage. I wrote down some stats on him. So he allowed 236 yards on 418 coverage snaps. That's 1.8 yards a snap. So he can cover, and he can tackle. He shed blockers and go after the tackles. What I did find that I didn't like is well, not that I didn't like, but some weaknesses. He was on a juggernaut defensive team. So how much of it was him and how much of it was the talent around him, it may just, we'll see. And he did seem to like sit there and watch and wait for the hole, sit in the hole and wait for the running back to come to him. So I want to see him be more aggressive and actually attack. But yeah, man, combine was legit. Obviously I am a RAS score guy. I think people can see that because athleticism, it will get you in the door, and that draft capital, it helps. So Jack Campbell's my number one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
he
I'm
plays
glad
in
you're a
the,
fan of
the
the
sweet
Raz
spot.
too. Go ahead, Raz. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah, well, that's you need to talk about the Raz with him because it's interesting when you watch him play, and I'm glad you mentioned it, Sam, about like he's sometimes a bit hesitant. Sometimes the speed he doesn't really look that fast, and I think it's because he's maybe hesitant. His decision making sometimes he doesn't trust himself that much. But when you see it in like maybe the short yardage situations where he's maybe only got like one job, everyone knows it's going to be a run, everyone knows it's going to be straight up the
Mhm.
middle. That's when you see him really fly to the ball, and he's a really good tackler as well. He doesn't miss many tackles. And yeah, for fantasy, he plays in that sort of sweet spot exactly where you want to be. And the amount of time his ability and coverage will make sure he's a 3 down player like really early as well. He is decent enough, and he's combine showed that he's got the athleticism to hang at the next level as well. Um, he won the Butkus Award as well, and that usually sort of translates to being a good NFL player, best linebacker in the country, and yeah, it, there's not much more else I can say. I think you covered it quite a lot. He's the most polished linebacker we have here and pro ready, and
Hmm.
yeah, smart player who I think can have an impact in day one.
Hmm. Yeah, he's definitely a guy that I could see sneaking into the first round after that combine. I mean, obviously interviews and stuff matter too. And clearly he's a freak athlete. He's very physical. He's a great, well, I'll say he's a solid tackler, in the box and in the open field. But instinct wise, I think Sam kind of mentioned like you see him a little slow to react, attacking those gaps. That's something that I think that he needs to improve on. Sometimes they'll let him come to them come to him rather than just attacking that gap and filling it. So, I mean, I think that he needs to just be able to react and trust his instincts. That might be a slight knock, I could say, but I'm really just kind of nitpicking here. And then in terms of coverage, like he was solid in the zone, but I don't know how he's going to handle like a fast running back and man coverage. That might be an issue for him. But I mean, he's got the size and the strength to keep up with tight ends. So that's something that not a lot of these guys, like a lot of these guys, they might be solid covering a running back, but not so much a tight end. I think it's almost the opposite with him. But, after seeing those combine numbers, I mean, he's got the agility and the speed to keep up with them. So I do really, really like Jack Campbell. I just see him more of like a first and second down kind of guy and being taken out on third downs for for passing down. So he's got a lot to like. It's a little polarizing because like there's sometimes where you'll see him like sniff out a screen or a misdirection counter and stuff like that. But then there's other times where, he doesn't really show that range and that athleticism on tape like the combine would kind of dictate. So he's definitely right up there with Drew Sanders for me. I think I'm still giving Sanders just a slight nod just because I really like that ceiling and the pass rush potential too. So
Yeah, I think Sanders has got the higher ceiling. And like I said, just the way I IDP with linebackers, I'd rather have that floor and to know I got that consistent, 15, 17 points. Uh, Sanders is up there with the ceiling. Uh, I'll let TT know, man, if he gets first round draft capital, I'm taking him at 2-1.
yeah, it's something for me to consider too. I think I got maybe 2 seconds or something like that this year with my 105. I always thought like I'm tanking, but at the same time, I don't have the capital that I thought that I had. I feel like it should be better because there's some leagues where I just have like 4 or 5 first round picks, and I'm like, oh, I should have that in this, and I don't. So I still got some work to do. But yep, Jack Campbell's a solid guy. He'll probably be like a second round guy, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I thought he was more like second or third, but the combine was really eye opening for me. So we've got a good 9 minutes left, so we could get through one more prospect before we finish it off. So we'll move on to Noah Sewell, brother of Penei Sewell. Very familiar to me. He is also coming out of Oregon, 20 years old and a sophomore. So he's pretty young. Obviously, a little bit still raw if you kind of look at the numbers here, but he's 6'1", 246 pounds, so a little shorter, but he's got some good weight to him. He had a 9.11 RAS score, a 4.64 40-yard dash, a pretty average explosion, which is like broad jump and vertical jump, and he did not do any agility testing, the shuttle or the 3-cone. So we'll see that at his pro day, I'm sure. But last year he had 55 total tackles, 24 solo, 31 assisted, 3 pass breakups, 1.5 sacks, no fumbles and 1 interception. 2021 was really his year to shine, and it kind of put him on the radar for everybody, but a little disappointing in 2022. So the year before, he had 114 total tackles compared to his 55 last year, 53 solo, 61 assisted, 5 pass breakups, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a pick. So definitely a little bit of a fall off between 2021 and 2022 with Noah Sewell.
I'm not a big fan, to be honest. I don't really know what he does well. Like is it his athleticism with his RAS score, but it doesn't really show up on the screen that often. I don't really think he's got any sort of elite trait that you want to take to the next level, and that's what you're looking for when the guy's not like a first or second round pick, and I don't think he will be. You're looking for what's his calling cards, what can I show to take it to the next level, and what's he really good at. But I don't really see much. I feel like he's getting by on sort of name brand recognition, which is quite strange because he's not even in the NFL yet. Maybe because his brother's pretty good. And he was a 5-star recruit as well. So, and like I said, he did have a decent 2021 season in terms of production. But yeah, I really don't get it. Do any of you guys get it? Do you guys have a positive thing to say about Noah Sewell? Because I really don't.
I'm glad that that's your take, man, because that was my take. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of places I look and they have him rated highly. I'm like, I don't understand. He looks like he'd be the freak athlete. Obviously, he was incomplete in the combine, but if you look at like back and just like looking at all the stuff, like Oregon took him off the field for coverage stuff. Like he's a great blitzer. But that whole thing of like you just said about with Sanborn is like if they're gonna take you off the field, like for IDP production for fantasy, you have to be on the field. Like that's the number one thing. So if you are getting rotated in and out, you'll have some hit and miss weeks. But yeah, man, I saw him as a good blitzer, but I didn't see him as much else.
Yeah. Yep. I think we're all on the same page here. Obviously, as much as I'd like to like him, I just can't. I don't think that he is really. I mean, there's so many things that could be but aren't. You know, like he has like a high motor. I think that he has some pass rush potential, and he's a great athlete. He has like some tools to maybe one day be that Mike linebacker. But I see him more as like a pass rushing specialist at best. Total liability and coverage. I mean, I think he'd be a good blitzing linebacker, but he reminds me a lot of former Lions linebacker Jared Davis, just an absolute liability in coverage. Would be solid against the run and blitzing, but you just can't have him on the field all the time. And, you know, he's not even the best tackler. Like, kind of like with Trenton Simpson, there's a lot of times where he overruns the running back and misses tackles, you know, and he doesn't have as much arm tackles, I guess, as he does. But yeah, I mean, he's a little stiff as well, is what I noticed too. You know, not a lot of ability to change direction. So once he's beat, you know, one cut and that running back is by him. So there's a lot of concerns. I think that he could be good one day, but for right now, I mean, I'm staying away from him. But let's take a break for right now. We'll move on to our last prospect. Then we'll get into our sleepers and our rankings. We'll see you in a minute. All right, we are back, and Tyler has finally fixed his power. Welcome back, Tyler. Congratulations.
Hi, guys. Hi. I got my
And
8-year-old shades on.
Yeah, there's just some lovely glasses. You're looking great.
Like I said, I just seen Sam with his on. I thought there was a shade party, so.
Hey,
Yeah.
man. Future's so bright.
Yeah, just as bright as your brand new light, Tyler. How the hell did you lose power changing a light bulb?
No, I was changing the light. I was changing from a fan light in the kitchen. You know, ones with the big fan that goes around.
Yep.
And then my wife got like this antique light where somebody had done the wiring themselves, and it wasn't like color-coded wiring. They were all just silver fiber wiring. So then I had no idea. They had marked one with a black piece of tape, and I was like, I don't what does that mean? This black? So then I was trying to, you know, originally I hooked it up, that one to black, and then I turned the light on, but it just like I turned the power back on, but then it just stayed on. And I was like, well, wires across somewhere because, you know, so then I just kept moving wires around until I finally got it.
So that cut power to your whole house?
Well, also into the junction box, they have 3 black wires and 3 white wires going into the junction box. And I couldn't get, I don't know, the power's crossed somewhere. It's very scary actually to know, because that means that the junction box could be overloaded and I could have a fire. So I'm thinking I'm going to get my buddy to come and like check my house out, check all the electrical out in this place, because I don't trust the the electricians. I don't trust the tradespeople that worked in this place originally.
So funny
That's scary.
story. Funny story. I got I'm waiting for a text. I got an electrician coming out to my house because I don't mess with electricity anymore after I almost killed myself with changing out a 3-prong or 4-prong, whatever it was, dryer. I just changed out the back of the yeah. I didn't secure the power properly and I plugged it in and spark. I could have killed myself. So, anyways, I got somebody coming to fix some stuff for me electricity wise. It ain't gonna be Tyler.
Yeah, and that electrician's going to be walking out, and then when Tyler thinks he's gone, he's going to be like, damn, he was dirty hot.
Dirty hot. Like you pick up a bag of dog poop with, right?
Yeah.
And then rub it so you can warm your hands.
Yes, exactly. Get a nice little bit of warmth.
I listen to your podcast, buddy.
I was going to say, did I even say that on this one?
No, you did on the other one.
That was only once or twice. I don't do that anymore. I just wear gloves. That works better, believe it or not, somehow. But anyways, let's move on. Get back to business. Tyler, you missed the first 4 linebackers. We've already covered. What did we cover? Drew Sanders, Trenton Simpson, Jack Campbell, and Noah Sewell. We've got 1 more to go, and then we'll do our rankings and our sleepers. And I really want to know who your sleeper is. So we'll kick it off to Diane Henley out of Washington State. He's 23 years old, a little bit older of a prospect, senior coming out. He is 6 foot tall, 225 pounds. So I think he is the smallest linebacker that we have covered so far. But RAS score was pretty good, 8.57. Just really good testing numbers, but bad size, which is really what brought him down. He's a converted wide receiver. He played just 1 year for Washington State, but he transferred over from Nevada. So in 2021, he had 94 total tackles, 59 solo, 35 assisted, 3 pass breakups, and then 4 interceptions, and 1 was for a touchdown. So transferred over to Washington State, had a little bit of improvement there, 106 total tackles, 54 solo, 52 assisted, 1 pass breakup, 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and an interception. So pretty much upgraded everywhere. I don't know. He's a different kind of linebacker prospect, a little bit more of a coverage guy, a little undersized, but he still has some traits that are to be desired in the NFL and for fantasy.
Yeah, I like that you've mentioned he's a wide receiver, former wide receiver, because you see that sort of speed, and it's like he's a good blitzer as well. I think he's good in coverage, but he's also a good blitzer. He's got like closing speed, I would call it. So when he sees a quarterback open up, he's quick to get to him, and he's a really solid tackler as well, despite his smaller size. I think he's one of the best. He's probably the best tackler that we've talked about. Well, I suppose not Jack Campbell, but yeah, he's strong and he's small, but he's stout, and he's a thick boy as well. So yeah, he's really good. And I think he can improve as well, just like with a couple of years at the position. But both years he's been a full-time linebacker. He's had like almost 100 tackles for 2 different colleges as well. So he's got a little bit of production. He does have some traits, like I said, he's athletic enough anyway, I think. So I think he'll be a really good special teamer as well at the next level. And that really gets you on an NFL roster, and it allows you to develop for a few years, and maybe he'll turn into a starting linebacker one day. But yeah, I enjoyed watching him, and hopefully he could land somewhere good on the NFL.
Yeah, you guys kind of hit it with he's got that tackling capability. When I looked at him, he looked very fluid, being able to do different positions. He was also not just a wide receiver, but he was a quarterback too. So I think that plays into him being able to read that coverage. I mean, I'm a 49er guy, so I've seen what like a will linebacker like that can do, like Dre Greenlaw, and that's what I kind of look at him like. So I like him and his ability. Very rangy. He's got a good speed and he's able to tackle. So he reminds me of like a like a yoked out safety out there at linebacker.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This was the guy that I was thinking was more like Isaiah Simmons, that safety linebacker hybrid kind of guy. But it's interesting you say that about being the quarterback and reading coverage, because I think that is his best attribute is his ability to cover as a stack linebacker. He's the best in this class, in my opinion. He's a great athlete other than the size concerns. I mean, I knew that he was small before I really looked into him, but he is a guy that I heard a lot of things, good things about at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine. He has a good head on his shoulders, and he does have good speed and good range. He can go sideline to sideline. And what really surprised me is how good he was at actually making tackles. Like, that's the thing, is I think like he would just kind of bounce off, but no, he was actually very pleasantly surprising as a tackler. So I think that he has a lot of traits that are really, really intriguing. He's probably he's probably my favorite. He might not be the best linebacker in this class, in my opinion, but he is my favorite just because I think he's got a lot of potential. Like you said, Ross, he might be like a special teams or a third down specialist for his first year, but it's going to get you on an NFL team. You're going to be able to develop. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's the best linebacker in this class. I mean, the couple things that were a little bit of a knock for him were just struggling to get off blocks. He's not a very good pass rusher. I'd like to see him a little bit better in between the tackles and not just kind of, chasing these running backs down in open field, because that's not really the game in the NFL as compared in like the Pac-12 where they're just, running out on sweeps and pitches and just making like open field tackles. So he'll have to be able to fight through some blocks and make the tackle in a gap. And that's something that is a little bit of a question mark, but I really like the prospect. Tyler, your analysis on Deion Henley, your favorite position.
Well, my analysis is I've never seen this guy play. I haven't watched any film, but I thought Ross said that he was white. And I was like, he ain't white, he's black.
Nope. Very
good looking guy though, good jawline. Like guys like him.
Sty's gonna
his
take
description though, his
Scouting
description
jawlines.
of how he plays and stuff kind of reminds me of Devin Bush though. So I don't know. I could be way off. I don't know.
So a bust.
That's what I have to say because I'm in La La Land right now. So
hey man, but you got lights on, so that's good.
Yeah.
Not
lights on, no one's home. All right. Well, should we rank these and then get to our sleepers, guys? What do you got, Ross?
So I have Jack Campbell number 1. So he plays in the most efficient position. Then I'd probably have Drew Sanders just for his upside. Then Trenton Simpson because he's probably going to have high draft capital. Then Henley, and then Sewell is like number 55 on the list, not just 5.
Yeah. So he goes undrafted, you think?
Well,
So
he's undrafted for me. I'm not going to get him anywhere.
Is Sewell not going to Detroit now that they got Dickhead?
No, he is never going, man.
They resigned Fabio there?
He's got the name, but he's got nothing much else. He's going to be a project. He'll be a special teams guy, like 6th round pick, maybe, is what I think.
He'll be the Quincy Williams to Quinnen Williams.
Yeah. What about you, Sam? How do you got him ranked?
I mean, I'm kind of similar to what Ross is saying. I got Campbell number 1. I actually got Hint. So these next 3 guys, I think is going to be dependent on landing spot. So I think it's gonna move around. But I got Henley as my number 2 because of what we just talked about. I think his coverage capability, he's going to have more time on the field. Sanders as my number 3 because he is. If you're looking for a linebacker that has that high ceiling, it's Sanders. So he's my number 3. You put him in a good NFL team, he's easily my number 2. But Sanders and then Simpson, and then because I have to rank him 1 to 5, it's Sewell. But yeah, like Ross said, Sewell would be way further down on my list.
Yep. Yeah, honestly, there was definitely some other guys we probably could have talked about over Sewell, but I'm going to veer a little bit away from you guys here. Now, there's a difference between ranking these guys in terms of NFL value and fantasy value. And so I almost want to flop Jack Campbell, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stick with my original rankings. I've got Drew Sanders number 1, not just because of the pass rushing potential, but he just has that one season as an off-ball linebacker, and I think that he has a tremendous ceiling. He still had good production in his 1 year as an off-ball linebacker. He's decent in coverage. I mean, he's a kind of do-it-all guy. I think he's going to be the first NFL linebacker taken in this draft. But after him, I've got Deion Henley, actually, just because he's one of my favorites in this
Yeah,
class.
he's good.
I can't put him over Campbell just yet, just because I know that he has more potential to be on the field after this first season. And I think that he has a little bit more lasting power, but Jack Campbell will be third for me. Again, like great productivity, great athlete, but I just didn't see it as much on the field. I think he is a solid tackler, but I don't know. Those three guys are so close for me. They're all right in the same tier. So I'm going to have to stick with that. And then I'll go Trenton Simpson. Honestly, that was a guy who I was really intrigued by, and he's done nothing but disappoint me. He's a good athlete, but he can't tackle worth a shit. And then Noah Sewell, dead last for me. Big project, special teams guy, has potential to be a good pass rusher at some point, decent motor, but yeah, I just don't see him fitting in as an off-ball linebacker in the NFL. But let's move on to some sleepers here. Tyler, should we start with you? You got a sleeper for us, bud?
I'm gonna go with he's 44 years old. His name's Tyler Coney. He's hasn't played in 25 years, but he's gonna get there. I think he's a great linebacker.
Yeah, very low floor.
Low floor,
Very
he
low.
runs his 40 time was 9.3.
Nice.
Yeah. And he's a little heavy on the heavy side. You know, he was at 340 some, but he's dropped down to 323, so he's doing pretty good there.
Good motor.
Yeah.
Good work ethic.
Bearded fella. You know, he's hot, dirty, so dirty hot.
Yeah.
Dirty hot. So no, seriously, I kind of was looking
That's an
at,
important trait. Dirty hot, you know.
It is.
I was looking
That's
at
something I look for.
I don't even know if he's draft eligible this year or if he is getting drafted, but I was looking at Mika Baskerville, and I like him because he's fast and stuff. So, you know, he gets the job done when it needs to be done.
What's his name?
I don't know. I got him on my list.
Mika
Oh, it's you.
Baskerville?
Yeah.
Yo, I dug deep because I didn't know how deep you guys would dig, but I've never heard of that name.
Well, he's projected to go in the third or fourth round.
Really? I'm gonna write it down.
Micah Baskerville?
We could call him Mika. We could call him Micah. We could call him Mike. Whatever you want, man.
Okay.
As long
All
as
right.
he's dirty hot, I'm in.
Yeah.
He's from
He looks
LSU.
dirty hot. Yeah, he's from Louisiana, man. Everyone from Louisiana is dirty hot.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe just dirty.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to research this week, and I've just been so busy with my son's hockey. He's got 1 week left, so
No, you're good, bud.
crazy.
Mika Baskerville and Tyler Coney, good sleepers. Ross, you got one for us?
I've got a couple, but I'll stick to my favorite is Ivan Pace out of Cincinnati.
That was mine.
See that's why I chose other ones.
You didn't.
So-
Did you have Ivan Pace as well,
Yeah,
Sam, or
I
you
did.
picked someone else?
I mean, I
can-
had Ivan Pace, but then I went a little deeper because I figured he would get mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk about someone else, Corbin, if you want, because I've got another one.
You
I
can go
really
ahead.
want to
It's
mention.
fine.
If
No
you're gonna say
problem.
Overshown,
So
I'm gonna be mad.
It's not. It's not. So
Alright.
he's a Cincinnati linebacker. He transferred from Miami, Ohio, this year, and he just really stepped up to the level of competition. He's got this year he had 136 tackles, 20 and a half tackles for loss, and 9 sacks. And he's like amazing at everything. Like he just absolutely lives in the backfield. And he's just running around, like scooting around blocks, and just so aggressive. And he's actually a really good tackler, and he hits with great power. He's just like a playmaking machine, and he's going to be like a special teamer forever in the NFL, and he's going to play for 10, 15 years, I'm sure of it. The small problem is that he's 5'10", so he's going to get pushed down the draft a lot. I bet if he was 2 inches taller, he'd be a first round pick. I just think he's so unbelievably good, but his height is really going to ding him. And so it prompted me to look into like NFL linebackers who were that size. I came up with London Fletcher, who was 5'10", 242 pounds. He was
That's a good
pretty good.
count.
So I'm hanging all
Yeah.
my hope on him being the next London Fletcher.
Well, I'll tag team off that before you get into it, Sam, because he was also my sleeper. Yeah, like you said, he's a little bit undersized, but that's really the only knock, like unless you're like nitpicking. With that, I guess, you could say he struggles in the box a little bit, like going against some big linemen, but pretty much you're going to have that with every single prospect. Because if you're 250 pounds and you're going against a 300+ pound man, that might be a problem for some people. And he's a little bit smaller. So that's the one knock, but you don't even see that on tape. He was an All-American. He was a Senior Bowl defensive MVP, and he just dominated in the drills and in the game. I think he was the MVP. Yeah, he was the MVP for that. But he had good productivity. The tapes there, he's got good athleticism, good instincts. He's a good blitzer, good at covering running backs. I don't know how he's going to do against tight ends, but I think that he could definitely be up there in like the top 4 or 5 linebackers. I really don't see him getting out of like the 3rd round in the NFL draft. So he's definitely somebody to keep an eye on. I'd like to see where he goes first, but yeah, he's been rising up my board since the Senior Bowl. I really like him as a prospect.
You guys kind of hit everything I had with Pace. Pace was my guy too, because and it's the same stuff. Smaller size, but he, like Ross said, he's a good tackler, but then like you said, he is a great blitzer too. He's sideline to sideline. He's fast. Yeah, I mean he's gonna get knocked because he's that smaller size. But what's that dude in Jacksonville that came in that started the hybrid thing? He reminds me of that guy. Tevin.
Elvin
Was it
Smith?
my?
Yeah.
Oh,
Elvin
okay.
Smith?
Yeah, he reminds me of that guy. He looks, he's all over the field. Like you never see a tackle where he's not a part of. He's just there.
Mhm.
So I liked him. I like Overshown, obviously. I think he was actually my number 5 guy, but I tried to go deep. My guy was, hopefully you never heard of him, because like I said, I try to go deep, was Charlie Thomas. Anybody ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not watched him a lot, but yeah,
So
go for it. Tell me about him.
TT tune out. Okay. So Charlie Thomas was my guy. He played at Georgia Tech. He was a second team all ACC. He's 6'2", 210 pounds, so he still kind of fits in that hybrid role. But I just, everything I looked at him, he was all over the field. He was good blitzing as well. He's not that 6'3", 6'4" size and weight, but he's another hybrid linebacker that I thought that could really do well. Looking at like Todd McShay's rankings, I think he had him like as number 11 and number 12 linebacker. And for my purposes, I had him in my top 10. So.
Okay, yeah, I see him now. I looked up one guy and it said that he was a safety edge hybrid. So I was like, what the? Actually, I think it is this guy on
Yeah.
Draft Buds that has him listed as a safety edge hybrid. So
Yeah, because he's a smaller
pretty
kind of guy.
intriguing.
He's a smaller frame, but I think he's one of those that can do it all kind of thing. So
That's somebody I got to look into. I've never heard of him, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I haven't dove in super deep on linebackers either. Like I'm still really just focused on like quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, like the offensive players. And that's something that I got to look into a little more. I'm definitely better at evaluating offensive players than the defensive players at this point, but I'm working on it.
Me too.
Yeah. It's a little bit
You
easier, a
can
little bit
tell by
more
my
fun.
roster because my offense is so good.
Oh yeah, I've noticed. Everybody has.
Hey Sam, can
Sir.
you talk about Trey Lance for a bit?
I can't, buddy.
Come on,
what do
I'm
you-
trying to trade him.
I mean, dude, Brock Purdy he came in as what he was, and I was on him before he even got a start, and I knew he had good talent, had good arm. So the thing with San Francisco is Shanahan's offense. He's looking for somebody that can run his style, his speed, and be consistent with his throws. Trey Lance is that I know Bob's gonna love this. He's that Konami code kind of guy where he offers that Jalen Hurts kind of rushing kind of capability.
Yes.
So I like Trey Lance, man. The issue with him is the amount of time he had from playing like real football, because he played a smaller school, was hurt, and then for his first year, and then got hurt in Chicago Mud Bowl or whatever it was. I want San Francisco to go with him, but I don't know what they're going to do. And if they're not going to go with him because of the draft capital they gave him, I hope they trade him so he gets an opportunity. But he's a high risk gamble right now that if I were you, I would keep, because you're not going to get what you want to get from him.
I'm
So
the
you don't
only
think
guy
Sam
in-
Darnold, he doesn't scare you at all?
Sam Darnold is a very capable backup.
I'm the
I
only
think-
guy in roster where, or not rosters and rising rookies who gambles on players. So
Oh yeah. You want me to take a gamble and
Yep.
send you 3 firsts for Jared Goff? Sorry.
Sure do. You guys all wait. Everybody waits until the guy is succeeding. Then they want him.
Well, the price goes up then, so you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but did you hear about Lance's second surgery?
Yeah,
they're talking
You're trying to
Lynch
sell him.
back.
I thought you were trying to sell him. You're talking
Well,
about
I am,
second surgery.
but this is good news because they're talking about Lynch. Like nobody's heard about this, but they're talking to Lynch, and I guess he was having complications with his first ankle surgery, and that's why nobody was hearing. Like they were talking at first that he might be back for playoffs when it first happened, right? But then nobody was nobody's hearing. Like, where's Lance? Like nobody's hearing anything. Apparently, he was still having like a lot of pain, a lot of issues. So they went back in, and they did a corrective surgery on him. And now Lynch is saying he's pretty much like almost 100% and feels great and healthy. And so that was good news. But yeah, nobody knows that he had a second surgery. It's quite interesting to hear.
I'd rather have Anthony Richardson over Trey Lance at this point.
Yeah, I
But,
got nothing to
yeah.
say to that.
Okay.
I like Anthony Richards. You can check the receipts. I've been on record saying that Anthony Richards is my 1-1. So
Dude, I took him at plus 3,000 odds. Bet
Yeah.
$5 for him to go 1 overall at plus 3,000. And now it's like like plus 150 or plus 300 maybe. He's right out there in the top 3. So, but we've already talked our quarterbacks. Good luck trading Trey Lance there, Tyler.
Look, you guys don't want to talk about Aaron Rodgers?
No, I don't. No, not at all. Not a single bit. I don't
Come
ever
on.
want to think about him again. In fact, no, man, I'm done. I see that thread. I click I mark as read, and I move on. I'm
But
done.
he's in
I know.
other threads too. He's
No,
everywhere.
no, that's a good spot to end it there. Well, Sam, thanks for coming on, man, as our first guest for the show. Great analysis. We appreciate the other side from another perspective, and it was a good thing too with Tyler's light catastrophe. We really needed you, so thanks for coming on, man.
hey man, I appreciate it. Anytime you guys need anything, let me know.
Yeah, we'll do. Well, we'll be back next week. We will announce our position group shortly in the next few days here, but we hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you next time, guys.
Guys, later.
Peace.